Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. The 45th anniversary of Tom Dempsey's 63-yard field goal was Sunday, and it stood for more than 4 decades as the league record. Who finally broke the record of Dempsey by booting a 64-yard field goal? Matt Prater of the Denver Broncos, December 8th, 2013. But again, to me, that should always have an asterisk because they kick in the mile-high city in rare air where the ball absolutely flies. Tom Dempsey kicked his field goal, for those that aren't aware, on what amounted to a cow pasture at Tulane Stadium. The surface was nothing but dirt. There really wasn't any grass. It was gray. Go back and look at it and watch it. And despite that surface and despite being born without part of his right foot, he kicked the longest field goal in league history, and the record stood for over 4 years. And Godspeed to my friend Tom Dempsey and to his family. Tom, our prayers are with you. And Carlene, same to you. It's time now for our hot seat segment where we place Brian Ellie Walsh on the hot seat for a hot topic of the day. Can Leonard Fournette still win the Heisman Trophy? Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. As always, absolutely. Unequivocally, yes, he can still win it. Will he win it is the bigger question in my mind. Let's say this. Because of his performance against Alabama, which was pedestrian at best, yeah, he didn't run well. There were no holes. Of the 18 carries he had, I think 13 went for 1 yard or less. He had an 18-yard run, or that 31-yard total figure would have been much, much less. He broke 2 tackles. The bottom line is that he ran against an NFL-type rushing defense front 7 type of defense. He's not going to see that before, and he won't see it again. So he's still got a great shot. But what he did was he opened the door for others to come in and now be mentioned heavily in the conversation. And I'll just throw out a few. Obviously, Derrick Henry had a tremendous game. Should be in the conversation. Boykin, the quarterback at TCU, they get knocked off by Oklahoma State. Now that hurts, okay? That hurt them. But the bottom line, in my opinion, there's only one player that's going to be in the conversation at season's end that is not part of a national championship conversation, and that's LSU and Leonard Fournette. Whether or not they play in the Final Four remains to be seen. All the other teams, Ezekiel Elliott of Ohio State, he'll be there because their team's going to be in it. Derrick Henry, of course, is going to be there. But I think at the bottom line is Leonard is going to have 3 good games and then if a bowl game. But obviously the 3 games are going to determine whether or not he's going to win it. But he certainly is in the conversation, and I still say he's the front runner.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'd put him in the top 3.
Okay.
But yesterday, Saturday was a letdown for everybody. I mean, you was looking for him to get over 100 when Alabama showed you that when you put a great defense up. You know what I mean? I think if LSU would have ran outside more with him, like he showed at the end when he run outside what he can do, but they stayed right up the middle in the power. But just looking at Henry from Alabama, he showed you how big boys run the ball. And I think that he played a tough schedule, Alabama do. So he's going to be a horse to reckon with in that race.
All right, and I know that the vote doesn't occur to like the second Saturday in December or something like that, but right now, Ricky, who would you give the Heisman to right now? I know it's early, but who would you give it to?
Well, I would take Henry for one reason, or for a couple of reasons. I would take him because he's a senior.
Okay.
And I would take him because that game showed you that he got 200 and something yards against LSU. He kicked LSU butt. So, I mean, that's what people remember the last game. A lot of time when they're going for the Heisman, they remember what happened on the last game. And that game would have been the last game against those 2 guys. So I would have to go for the senior and the way he ran the football.
Yeah, there's no doubt that game is going to impact, especially nationally. I think locally we still understand how good Leonard is.
Right.
If you take the big, broad paintbrush to Leonard's career season, I should say, it's still good. And he's going to put up numbers over the last 3 games. Whether or not that 1 game impacts remains to be seen, and that it's going to determine around the country what they think of him.
And he's a sophomore, you know, I mean, it's just hard to go over a senior on that last game like that.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
They got 3 more games left.
Yep.
Well done, guys. Enjoyed listening to you. Scope, visibility, presence. The scope of this game Saturday night the visibility of it, the presence of it is inescapable. Everybody that was anybody saw the game. Anybody that was anybody who votes in the Heisman Trophy race saw the game. The impression that people were left with is a head-to-head matchup. Leonard Fournette wasn't playing Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry wasn't going against Leonard Fournette, but they were on the field in the same game, and there was a clear distinction and comparison to be made. And the comparison was one-sided, which has nothing to do with Leonard Fournette. I happen to think he's still the best running back in America. I think he's fantastic, and I love the kid. He's a tremendous young man as well. And I want to see him win the Heisman Trophy. The question was, can he still win it? Yes. Will he still win it? Likely not. If Alabama wins out the rest of the way, Derrick Henry should win the Heisman Trophy because he's the best player on basically the best team this side of Ohio State, who, by the way, he'd probably get a chance to face again. And who, by the way, he should have gotten the ball more against the last time they played Ohio State in New Orleans. Ezekiel Elliott would be number 2. He's a really good player, perhaps the best player on the other best team right now. Clemson doesn't have that one transcendent player. Boykin threw 4 interceptions in the game he played this past weekend. Scratch that. You faced a good competition and you spit the bit individually, you don't win the Heisman. Leonard Fournette did not spit the bit. He had no chance against a bunch of men who totally dominated up front, and we're going to talk more about that game coming up in the next segment. Can he still win it? Absolutely. But ingrained in the minds and in the mind's eye of all viewers for the rest of the season, considering the Heisman Trophy race, was what happened Saturday night. When we return in just a moment, more on LSU Alabama, Tulane and Prep as sportsNOLAtv continues.